Hi everyone, this is Kunal from Loop 91. This is our second video in UI Builder series. In our first episode, we talked about what UI Builder is and how everything works together within UI Builder. And we talked about how it aims to replace Service Portal and Jelly Pages. Although, between the last video and today, I and we, multiple people in community of ServiceNow told us that we are about to have a new interface coming up, and that is Slate UI. But for now, we'll focus on UI Builder. We talked about how there are three layers when it comes to UI Builder: the client side, the server side, and the layer that connects both of them. Today, we would be focusing on the client side of the UI Builder. So let's get started. Since in this video we are targeting only on the client side, we will create a new page and we will avoid using templates for it. And the reason behind that is that each template brings with itself some data resources and data bindings which we want to learn from scratch. So clicking create from scratch, demo client, and continue. Looks good. Continue. It will now build the page for us, and once that is ready, we'll start adding components to it. Our empty page is now ready. One thing you could do is you could add component directly to it, or the way I like it is to add layouts. You can use basic layouts which are kind of templated, which means single column, 2 columns, or 6 columns. If you believe or if you are comfortable with that mentality that a page should have 6 columns, that's for you to decide. I personally believe that you should start with Flexbox or Grid. This way it gives you much more freedom to manage how your component end up within this layout. Okay, so now that we have a container, we will add content to it, and first thing first, we will add a text, and that is stylized text. We add that here. Whenever you add a new component, and if there is a preset that can be used, ServiceNow will recommend to use it. We will come to presets maybe in 4th or 5th episode, but for now we will simply cancel it and configure it directly ourselves. Now, since this is a stylized input, you will see that there are different kind of preset styles available for it. So you could make it a div or h1 to h5, make it paragraph, pre, or span. So since this would be title for us, we will use h3 because h1 seems a bit over the top. Okay, so now when we have this component on your page, you have two options. How would the text appear? For now it says let's workflow it, and it is coming from the text box here. So if I were to change this title for client site demo, and once you click it, that changes, right? You also have multiple style options to change from. For example, if I wanted to add some padding, I could simply add padding here. Again, ServiceNow is being very helpful by providing you padding in shapes of S, M, L, XL. You could change it to any pixel any way you want it. For example, if I were to remove it, make it 0, and then go and click on edit CSS. If you see, it says padding is 0. So I will remove every other padding and make it 12.5 pixel. Let's make it 12 pixel. That's it. And that is now applied. So you can use some of the out of the box or quick settings, if you say, to use it, or you can actually edit CSS as you would do in a web development project. Now that we have done it, we have added a component to our page. We will save it and we will open it in a new tab, and there you have it. Title for the client side demo is visible. Now that we have seen how static input for components work, for example, on this component we have put in the text as static input. There are two ways a component can take a property from user, and first would be the static input that is selected here, and second is bind data. If you were to use static input, you can assume it to be hard coded within the page definition, but binding data is dynamic. So we'll click on this and it will open up a window where you can bind data. On the top you see the title of the model window. Here you see the point and click selector. You can also use script. It will change to a script dialog. For this example, we are sticking to bind data using point and click. And on this, if you see, we have client states and there is no client state. So we will go and create that one now. Client state parameters, create a new one, and title string. We will give it an initial value. This is my title text. Apply. And now we will bind that client state parameter to this text. Click on bind data, go to client states, and you can click on it. Now you could drag it. You can click on this up arrow to move it, or you can double click it. Either way, this needs to be populated. And once you see here, you can click on apply, and now the title has changed. And if I were to change it again, I don't need to change anything. Whenever value of this client state parameter changes, the value on the page will change, and it is changed. Apply, and it changes. So if I were to save it, refresh here, it will show us the new values. So that is, now we have attached a dynamic value to the text property of this component. What else? Since I told you that this value, the client state parameter, is like a global variable and can be changed, so let's do that. For that, what we will do is we add a button to it. We'll call it change title, and we will make it primary so that it looks good. There are multiple styles, configurations. I implore you, I ask you, I request you to go and explore each of those, and you will be surprised how much can you work with. Now that we have added a button, how do we make it respond to user click or user interactions? And that is where events come in. You click on events. It already has created a handler for you, that is button clicked. So we will add handler to it. We will use set client state parameter, continue, title string. It is asking you what is the client state parameter that you need to change, and we will click here. My button was clicked, so you see new text. Add. We save it. We go to this page, refresh this page. This is my title text and it is changed. Click on it. My button was clicked, so you see new text. Now there is no one-to-one relationship between this component and the client state parameters. You could add many more components to use this string. For example, we will keep it as h1, but we will attach there. So what is happening is, whenever you have a client state parameter, and if that value changes, ServiceNow will go and look for each place that this client state parameter was referenced and change those values for you. And this is what is called reactivity within web development. Same thing happens in React using useState or Svelte or Vue. Everywhere, this is one of the major transition that we had from static website development to SPAs or the newer paradigm web development, that was reactivity. You don't need to go in and set the new values on your page. The system, the library, maybe React or in this case UI Builder, takes care of that for you. For the next part, now we would look how can we change the client state parameters dynamically. How would we get an input value from user that we can set to client state parameters, and that in change will update the values here. So for first, we will add a new text box. Let's use input text, single line input as we call it in ServiceNow. We'll change the label to say title, and that is it. Now remember the button had events, so would this input box. Go to events and we will create a new mapping, and the mapping is text entered. Continue. Set state client parameter, title string, and now again, if you remember, we had option of putting text on the text component, either static or data binding. Same here. So we can either set a value, static value, that will be set to client state parameter whenever the value of input box changes, or we could use the value from input box, and for that we will click on bind data. And one thing will you see new is that you have a new category here, event payload, and the field value, and we drag it here, apply, add, and save. Go to the demo, refresh. This is my new value. Whenever value of this input box changes, it updates the client state parameter, which updates the stylized inputs, stylized text, and we can see it here. So the input component has a value which is set to the client state, which then states and changes the component, which was your heading. So this happens automatically behind the curtains and you don't have to worry about it. That's about what we would be covering today. We have covered how do we add components to an empty page, how do we set the static values, how do we create client state parameters, how we connect those components to use client state parameter values, how we dynamically change the values in client state parameter using buttons, or at the end, how do we change client state parameter values using user input. That could be in this particular case an input box. In our upcoming videos, we would cover data resources and client scripts. So keep watching. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. And if you really like it, share it with others. I'll see you in the next one.